posted photos of her life in Wuhan. An Italian publisher then asked her to write a book for children.
I wanted to give them at least that from somebody who actually lived the lockdown. In Italy, it was published the 15th of September 2020. It has been bought by many schools in Italy. They asked me questions about everything, like my life and my son's life in Wuhan.
They came to Wuhan from all parts of the world and stood side by side with the locals in the face of a big challenge. Bai Juan, Wuhan TV for CGTN from Wuhan.
And that brings us to the end of this edition of The World Today. I'm Xiao Yang from the team. Thanks for watching. Stay with CGTN. Culture Express is next.
This is CGTN, China Global Television Network.
Today on Culture Express, Chinese historical drama 1921 rigs big buzz in pre-sale and preview screening tickets. We head to China's Shandong province where an exhibit pays tribute to the CPC's centenary. We check out efforts in Jiangxi province to preserve ancient temples and ancestral structures. Plus, today in our Job Hopper series, we find out what it's like to be a dog trainer for a day. Hello everyone, welcome to Culture Express here on CGTN. I'm Louisa Lee, live here in Beijing. Thank you for tuning in. As the Communist Party of China celebrates its centenary, veteran artists from across the country have expressed their best wishes for the CPC. Take a look.
我是古建芬，我是中国教养乐团党员歌唱家胡松华。
大家好，我是中国煤矿文工团的老演员徐贤和，党龄43年了。
大家好，我是文旅部国家话剧院的演员尤本昌。
我是国家话剧院演员李林。
大家好，我是文化与旅游部中国国家话剧院导演王小英。
你好，我是中国国家话剧院的演员刘威。
我是国家京剧院的京剧老演员耿其昌。
大家好，我是中国煤矿文工团演员郭晨宇。 100年风雨，100年坎坷，100年辉煌，100年收获。在2021建党100年之际，我由衷的祝愿中国共产党永驻辉煌。
祝党的100年华诞生日快乐！
我衷心的祝愿您生日快乐，永葆青春。
今天，在您的生日到来之际，我们共同的祝愿您永葆青春，生日快乐！
我祝贺我们伟大的中国共产党100岁诞辰。
我衷心祝福中国共产党永葆青春，生日快乐！
Now to the world of movies. The Chinese historical epic film 1921 has raked in over 58 million yuan. That's about $9 million in preview screening tickets and pre-sales. The drama looks back on the turbulent times which saw the birth of the Communist Party of China. It recounts the determined efforts by a group of young people to hold the party's first Congress in Shanghai. Preview screenings have been launched in major cities across the country since June 25th, and the movie will be released nationwide on July 1st, the day marking the CPC's centenary. And in related news, the celebration continues in East China's Shandong province. Hundreds of traditional artworks, including paintings, calligraphy, and paper cuttings, are being showcased at an exhibition to mark the anniversary. Here's more.
Over 500 works of painting, calligraphy, photography, and paper cutting were selected out of nearly 10,000 works to show the revolutionary spirit of the CPC. A giant painting depicting the story of a nursery that raised more than 1,000 children of the 8th Route Army is a highlight of the exhibition.
We sent some 200 artists to different regions to get materials. After 2 years of creating, the works express the artist's sincere love for the CPC. They are not only works on the revolution, but also works telling the story about the Yellow River and the changes in our hometown.
The exhibition also displays artworks with distinctive local characteristics and intangible cultural heritage elements, such as paper cuttings, New Year pictures, and farmers' paintings. Topics also include China's achievements on poverty alleviation, rural revitalization after the 18th National Congress of the CPC, as well as people's life in the new era. Zhang Mengyuan, CGTN.
Yangjiabu village in Shandong province has long been famous for producing woodblock paintings for the Lunar New Year. The ancient skill is still being practiced today, and more than 20 local artisans are safeguarding this tradition of chronicling the country's stories.
This 36-meter-long scroll consists of 100 different woodblock paintings. It took local artists about 8 years to record significant events happening in China in the past 100 years, in the form of Yangjiabu woodblocks. The paintings depicting the history of wars, nationwide reconstruction, the reform and opening up period, and the current social development have attracted quite a number of visitors. Traditional crafts are used throughout the creation process, including designing, carving, and watercolor overprinting, and some of the finest examples of the genre in China. The 36-meter-long scroll has secured an entry in Guinness World Records.
因为这100年来的变化呀，可以说是波澜壮阔。
China has undergone tremendous changes in the past 100 years. We aimed at giving full play to the traditional craft of New Year woodblock print. We set high requirements for the artists. The works should be as close to the real history as possible, and the carvings should resemble the originals. We use woodblock print to record the century-old history, so that people cannot forget the changes we have experienced in the past 100 years.
Yangjiabu woodblock New Year painting has a history of over 600 years. It's a special form of decoration that is put on the doors during the annual Spring Festival in China. Li Chong, CGTN.
Next on Culture Express. How a county in eastern China is working to protect its architectural heritage. And in our Job Hopper series, we find out what it takes to be a dog trainer.
Images may appear to be identical, but looks can be deceiving. The difference is not always obvious. It has to be discovered. There are always different sides to a story. We put the focus on the details. To see more, to understand better. CGTN. See the difference.
Welcome to the world today on CGTN.
And you're watching Culture Express here on CGTN. China's industrialization is causing some ancient villages to disappear rapidly as old houses are replaced by new buildings. But a county in eastern China is seeking to reverse the trend. Located in Jiangxi province, Jingxi County is famous for its ancient houses and temples. Historically, notable figures from the area included influential scholars, writers, poets, and powerful officials in imperial times. Let's take a look at what people there are doing to protect their culture.
Located in Fuzhou City, Jiangxi Province, Jingxi County has a history of more than 1,000 years. There are more than 100 ancient villages in Jingxi, all of them still rich in traditional houses. The architecture is influenced by Confucianism and Taoism, leading homes to be built in harmony with the surrounding rivers and mountains. Some praise these buildings as living fossils of Chinese society from the Ming and Qing dynasties, and they represent the highest achievements of folk architecture during that period.
In Jingxi
County, there are about 100 villages. 1,000 buildings were built in the Ming Dynasty and 10,000 were built in the Qing Dynasty. The actual number is 11,633. A village is basically a family. For example, during the Spring Festival, all family members come back to celebrate the traditional holiday. The good memory, in fact, is also a kind of nostalgia. So the old house also carries more emotional things.
A pond, a tree, a courtyard, and an old house. These are typical images of traditional Chinese villages. However, villages in Jingxi County face a common problem. People are leaving, and the houses are decaying. Some of the houses have fallen into disrepair, with broken walls and leaky roofs.
The beam of the house was broken, and the wall also collapsed. If the house cannot be renovated this year, it will collapse next year.
Since 2016, the State Administration of Cultural Heritage has been promoting action to protect old houses all over the country. And local authorities have also put in place renovation plans for the ancient buildings.
Unlike conventional design schemes, in which I give them the computer drawings and then begin construction, here the villagers first express what they want. For example, they may say, I want to turn this room into a kitchen, or I want to make that room into a bedroom. Our repair plan is based on their request and helps to improve their life.
The renovation not only protects cultural relics, but also ensures the safety of villagers. Today, many decaying traditional buildings in Jinxi are once again showcasing the glory of the past under the caring hands of architects.
This is our old house. My father has 4 brothers, and I have more than 20 brothers in my family. They are very happy to see the new house.
From the economic point of view, the maintenance of old houses may not be as cost-effective as the reconstruction of new houses. However, the old house not only bears the aesthetic meaning of Chinese architecture, but also retains the nostalgia and memory of generations. Jinxi is the hometown of Lu Xiangshan, who has been honored as one of the greatest Confucian thinkers in Chinese history.
We want to promote the Xiangshan culture in an all-round way, from protecting ancient buildings to collecting cultural relics, as well as creating songs, operas, and dances.
Now, Jinxi County is taking on a new look, attracting tourists from all over China and the world. Its architecture and cultural preservation is not only benefiting local villagers, but also preserving great treasures for generations to come. Li Qiong, CGTN.
Now we head to the UK. A new exhibition commemorating the life and legacy of Britain's Prince Philip has opened in Windsor Castle. Curator Sally Gosser says the late Philip was aware of the exhibition and its contents.
Titled Prince Philip, A Celebration, the display in the castle's St. George's Hall features over 100 objects from the Duke of Edinburgh's early life, official duties, and overseas visits. Philip, a leading figure in the British royal family for almost 7 decades, died on April 9th, aged 99.
So the exhibition was planned as part of the 100th birthday celebrations for His Royal Highness. His 100th birthday would have been on the 10th of June this year. But following his death in April, we have delayed its opening just by a couple of weeks and are still holding it.
Among the highlights of the display are the coronation robes and coronet worn by Philip to the 1953 coronation of the Queen, as well as his chair of estate, which normally stands beside the Queen's at Buckingham Palace and is displayed at Windsor Castle for the first time. Going on public display for the first time is a portrait of the Prince painted in 2017 by Ralph Hymans.
I'm standing in front of one of the key pieces in the exhibition, which is a portrait of Prince Philip painted in 2017, the year of his retirement. He's shown standing in the Grand Corridor at Windsor Castle. That's really one of the key pieces of the exhibition because this is the first time it's been on public display.
The items range from the personal Queen Victoria's journal, recording the birth of Prince Philip's mother, Princess Alice, at Windsor Castle in 1885, to the eccentric, a human-sized grasshopper wine cooler, presented by French President Georges Pompidou during his visit to the United Kingdom in 1972.
I think what's really interesting is that certainly as a younger person myself, some of his early work perhaps I wasn't so aware of until I started researching for this exhibition. So his interest in mid-century design, for example, some of his early work in Windsor Great Park as the longest serving ranger there. I think that will be of interest to people. Some of that came out in the press at the time of his death, and I think without people being able to gather for the funeral as they might ordinarily have done, I hope they might be able to come to the castle and learn a little bit more about him.
The exhibition will be open to visitors until September 20th. Li Qiong, CGTN.
Thousands of visitors have filled museums across Hungary as venues opened their doors overnight. In its 19th year, the annual Night of Museums sees cultural institutions host special programs and welcome patrons until the early hours of the morning. After last year's online program, the return of it has been labeled as a turning point in the pandemic. It's the largest cultural event Hungary has held since COVID-19 began.
As famous landmarks lit up, the real night at the museum began. Exhibitions coming to life across the country. Thousands of people enjoying treasure troves of art and antiquities into the early hours of the morning.
Every year we usually come to here and visit the scene, and now it's good to come back and come out.
As well as entertainment, it was an evening of education. At the University of Veterinary Medicine, dogs didn't eat homework, they led the lectures. Rescued animals becoming real-life collections for a hands-on learning experience. The first long night of museums was held in Berlin more than 2 decades ago and has taken on different forms in 120 cities across the globe. The open nights are held as a way to attract new patrons and bring people together. In its 19th year, Night of the Museums is the largest cultural event Hungary has hosted since the pandemic began, a turning point after months of closures.
We all are very excited actually. I expected a little bit less people because I thought people would be much more worried. But I'm really glad to see that there are many people. So fantastic. Life has come back. We are all very happy.
Museums are open to full capacity, but visits still look a little different, with masks and vaccination certificates all part of the experience.
I have been in online teaching for a while, and I stayed at home for most of the time, so it was really good to be back and walking through the city and going to museums, because I really enjoy going to museums.
We also enjoy it more now that we have been closed for a long time, so we will probably make up for what we missed.
Cultural institutions reopened their doors just over a month ago. The industry hopeful exhibitions can continue to be enjoyed in person.
Everybody who works in the exhibition industry, even from the worker part, even from the audience part, knows that nothing nothing can be compared to a real life exhibition experience.
Hungary is expected to hit 5.5 million first-dose COVID vaccinations this week and further lift restrictions to remove masks altogether, as well as allow people into some venues without proof of vaccination. Vaccine certificates will still be required for mass events like this. Penelope Liersch, CGTN, Budapest.
Next on Culture Express. In our Job Hopper series, we spend a day with our furry companions as a dog trainer of the day.
Facing the unknown is always difficult. In a world in turmoil, it's easy to lose orientation. But when the storms come, we have to see the possibilities. Reinvent. Find new opportunities. Discover a path forward. CGTN. See the difference. Each day, there are millions of stories. Each one can open new perspectives, new possibilities. Wherever you look, we are there to see, discover, explore. We put the pieces together to find what really matters to you, all around the world, all around the clock. Our reporters are at home across the globe. From our headquarters in Beijing and production centers in Washington, Nairobi, and London, China Global Television Network. Stories from across the globe, reaching people across the globe. CGTN. See the difference.
Welcome back to Culture Express here on CGTN. Animal lovers, it's a furry affair. In our latest Job Hopper series, I'm taking my rescue pup, Lucas, for an outing in Beijing to work on that human-canine bond that has existed since almost the beginning of time. And while we are spending some quality time together under the sun, I'm also going to find out how to fulfill the role as a responsible fur mom. Dog trainer in the making, it just may or may not be my calling. Hello everyone, this is Lucas, my one and only son. He was rescued from the streets of Beijing. And today we're at Didi's hut for some fun and discipline. Trainer, trainee, or the other way around, we'll see.
Motorcycle racer turned dog whisperer, Adrian Maseha has been running Didi's Hood, a dog boarding, training, and rehabilitation facility in Beijing for the past 4 years. As a fur dad of 5 dogs and a dog rescuer himself, he aims to help men and their best friend build a positive and loving relationship.
This is Uni.
And this is Hood. Hi girls. Lukey, you're a lucky guy, huh?
Blue pup.
I walk Lukey twice a day. How often do I need to walk this little guy?
For a dog like Lukey, in the morning it'd be good to give him a long walk. Long would mean at least half an hour being better. It's good fitness exercise to get to explore the world, socialize with people, other dogs, but also migrate with you. The idea of walking together, having a purpose, having direction is all very important for a dog.
With Lukey, he gets quite aggressive when he's out with me. Sometimes when he sees other male dogs. Is walking away for me to introduce him to new friends?
Yes, as one of the many behaviors they could have is being protective of their owners. If the dog leads you and they're insecure about another dog or a scenario on the street, fear is going to kick in, and being aggressive is a way to overcome that. If instead you guide the dog by walking in front or with him and showing him like a calm disposition, they're bound to follow that energy, basically. The other thing, good association. Bring treats, bring toys, bring stuff he likes, and praise him whenever he's in the right mindset. All these things are going to help him just by small experiences move over the problem. It's dog and family being together as a pack on a mission to explore the world.
Now we head to the base where we are greeted by the furry bunch, along with the star of the center, Didi. Adrian tells me it's not about teaching them a full bag of tricks, but teaching tricks using positive reinforcement can stimulate their minds, boost their confidence, and most important of all, it can be fun for both parties.
If I target my hand and I want him to touch it with his nose, I would say, touch it, and he'll touch it. Touch it, touch it, touch it, yes.
Touch it. Good
there.
boy.
And then you can reward. Just for fun, Didi, look, speak, stop, and then he'll stop. Not funny. We go back to his place.
He's also bilingual, yeah?
Yeah, he speaks mostly French.
Oh, parlez français.
If I need to handle him, I would use my left hand if he's on the left, and I would do this, and he's just going to turn on his side very soon. I don't have to force it. And now I can go and groom, do nails, pet, check his ears, check his teeth. Another fun trick we have, we would teach him, Didi, stay, Didi. I excite him a bit. Yeah, yeah. So, oh! And he goes back.
You're a big dog. Are you like a little black bear? So cute. Well done, Didi.
While the 45-kilogram Didi steals the good boy title, Hood is being praised for her agility, zest, and enthusiasm as a diver. And it's Lucas's turn to make a splash.
With a dog like Lukey, rather than teaching him to love it, instead we teach him to be comfortable with water. First, be fulfilled with the whole experience. It's a challenge that he completed, so he's going to feel good about himself. It's going to build him his confidence. Imagine you had a yard with a pool and you did this once a day. Give it 2-3 months, there's a big chance that Lukey would come and swim by himself. So the little pools once in a while is to show direction. I'm not dragging him, I just make him move one step and then I let go. Why? Eventually he's going to understand this is the way to go.
Hey, Lukey. Good job. Good job, Lukey. I see that all these dogs are getting along, they're not fighting. Do you group them accordingly? So how do you group these dogs?
So it's very important to have the right selection, similar energy level to make sure that the dogs have a good experience, they can tolerate and enjoy each other. There is also dog fulfillment that is necessary. That means before doing such a chill social session, we need to give them enough exercise, enough engagement with them with training so they can feel challenged and enjoy the process, enough migration, exploration, everything so that the dog is complete. Once they're at peace, they can easily be balanced, be safe, be calm, and enjoy socializing like this. Different dogs, different breeds, different energy level and temperament will also have different needs. We tailor their activities based on who they are and what is best fit for them.
How did I do today and how did he do today?
You did fantastic. I like the fact that you're optimistic, that you're outgoing, engaging with the dog. Sometimes people tend to talk too much. If you cannot communicate with voice, communicate by energy, lure the dog, guide the dog, show them what you want, practice by small steps so they can have a more pleasant experience.
They say confidence comes from within, and Lucas is exerting it wholly as he makes the leap of faith into the deep end, quite literally. Louisa Li, dog trainer of the day, CGTN, Beijing. Cuteness overload. And that's it for this edition of Culture Express here on CGTN. I'm Louisa Li, live here in Beijing, and thank you for watching. We're going to leave you with a trailer of 1921. And stay tuned for more news coming up here on CGTN.
我们必须找到一条新路，能拯救这个国家的兴亡。国内准备召开第一次全国大会，建立统一的共产党。大哥，事情越闹越大了，再大一点，完了才好收拾。やってこい！把手榴弹扔进卡武电厂。蔡明塔，我们得走，收拾东西，快撤！
人生好短，短到可能看不到胜利的曙光。那今天的付出还有意义吗？
当然，我们无法选择自己的国家、家庭，但是我们可以选择自己的理想。
世界无产者，联合起来，
为理想奋斗，为真理献身。
This is CGTN, China Global Television Network.
Suspect arrested in DRC's Beni area after 3 bomb blasts over the weekend. South Africa reimposes restrictions to contain fast-spreading Delta variant of COVID-19. And the U.S. says it's carried out another round of airstrikes against Iraqi forces countering ISIL in Iraq and Syria. Hello and thank you for joining us on Africa Live. I am Penina Karibe. Also coming up this hour. Tanzanian president hints at adopting cryptocurrencies to drive economy. And in sports, action-packed Safari Rally weekend sees Sebastian Ogier emerge victorious. We begin in Somalia, where an estimated 30 people died when members of the Al-Shabaab militant group launched an attack in the semi-autonomous state of Galmudug on Sunday. A security official said the insurgents used car bombs in the assault on a military base in Whistle town in central Somalia. The attack triggered a fight with government troops and armed civilians. The security official confirmed 17 soldiers and 13 civilians were among the dead. The Somali government has condemned the attack, saying 41 insurgents had been killed in the fighting. Al-Shabaab has since claimed responsibility for the attack. Let's go to the Democratic Republic of Congo, where authorities say one suspect has been arrested after 3 bomb attacks hit the city of Beni in North Kivu province over the weekend. The government is also promising thorough investigations into the incidents. On Sunday, 2 women were injured when a bomb exploded in a Catholic church. Police said a makeshift bomb had been placed inside the church ahead of a confirmation ceremony. The attack marks the first time a church has been targeted in the region that is under a state of siege. Later in the evening, a suicide bomber blew himself up in the outskirts of Beni, killing himself and injuring 2 other people. A day earlier, a bomb went off near a petrol station, but no injuries nor damages were reported. Eastern DRC has been facing security challenges which have largely been blamed on Ugandan rebel group, the Allied Democratic Forces. Beni's Vicar General Laurent Sondira says the latest attacks could be a bad sign of what lies ahead for locals.
This is already a bad sign, that not only could the church be targeted, but also all public places. So it's a start and it alerts us to be careful. We don't know who did this or what it was about, but it was certainly to do harm. Unfortunately, we were lucky that there were only 2 people inside. We don't know their health status yet, but they are doing okay. But the goal was to target a large crowd.
Let's cross over to the DRC. Our correspondent Chris Chamringa joins us live from Kinshasa. Chris, what is the latest on those 2 bomb attacks on the weekend?
Well, the military governor of Beni says he has imposed a curfew in the region after these attacks, and they have banned large gatherings. Markets, schools, churches and mosques are all closed because he said that they have information that the people who carried out these attacks are planning to carry out other bomb blasts. There were 3 in just a space of 2 days. 1 happened on Saturday and 2 happened on Sunday. There was one that you mentioned earlier, was a bomb was lobbed inside a church. 2 women were very badly injured, and the other one, eyewitnesses say, was a suicide bomber who blew himself up outside a bar in Beni. The authorities are saying that they're investigating and they've got some leads of who could have carried it out. Penina?
Yeah, but this is all new, Chris, for the DRC, such bomb attacks. How are the authorities and the residents reacting to these latest developments?
That's right, Penina. Most of the attacks that have been carried out in the Beni region have been, by rebel groups who use machetes, guns, and sometimes burn people's houses. So this is indeed a new thing in the region, and the government says that they are very determined to ensure that they end the rebel activity in this region, because there are experts from the UN who have said that there is an Islamic rebel group that's originally from Uganda, known as the Allied Democratic Forces, that has been carrying out these attacks in Beni. They say there are more than 1,000 people who have been killed in that region since 2019. Now the government says they have already deployed troops to the area. Last week they deployed a number of troops to beef up the military governor who's on the ground trying to ensure that this area is gotten rid of all the rebels in the area. The people in the area are very worried because they are fearing to go out in large gatherings. They're saying this is something new. They might, be killed by these bombs, and so many of them are staying home as they monitor the situation. But the authorities are saying, I've urged people to remain calm and that they will get to the bottom of this.
All right, Chris, we appreciate that update. Thank you very much. Chris Chamringa live in Kinshasa. Foreign ministers and officials from 60 countries are meeting in Rome today to discuss the growing threat of the Islamic State group in Africa. While IS has suffered territorial defeat in Syria and Iraq, the influence of the jihadist group is growing across the African continent in countries like Mozambique, the DRC and the Sahel region of West Africa. Officials hope to come up with what they say is a coordinated and coherent plan to tackle ISIL. So let's bring in a security analyst. We have with us William L., Senior Training Coordinator at the Institute for Security Studies, joining us live via Zoom from Pretoria. Thank you very much, William, for your time. So concerns are growing that ISIL influence is thriving here in Africa. How does this influence manifest itself, and what do you think is contributing to this growth?
Good morning to you. Yes, unfortunately so. These type of groups, they only thrive in conditions and where these conditions are viable for them to thrive and to operate in. And unfortunately so in Africa, it seems to me that we are already prone to create these conditions where instability is and where people are marginalized, etc., etc., for these groups to infiltrate them and then to prey on the dissent and the discontent with the local communities. We saw that they entered into Libya. They became part of the fighting there. They also used Libya as a base infiltrate and to further work in the Sahel. We saw in Nigeria that they actually attacked the Boko Haram faction, and they actually claimed to have killed the leader of the Boko Haram faction in their infighting. And then also we see it also went down into Central Africa, where you just mentioned the attacks in Beni, where the ADF, they swore allegiance with this group. And then also last year, the group in Mozambique also swore allegiance with ISIS. And they also claimed quite a few of the attacks.
Right, so we've got groups such as Boko Haram and Al-Shabaab that have been in the continent for quite some time. So how are these new groups managing to penetrate such groups in the continent or to make inroads in the continent while such groups as Al-Shabaab and Boko Haram have been here?
In the first place, they got a lot of funding. We saw that during the tenure in Syria and the war there, they managed to accumulate quite a lot of funds, and that they can now disseminate to these people. They also accumulated a lot of experience in fighting with the allied forces there. And then now what they do is they're offering this money, they're offering, apart from the money, they're also offering the extreme doctrines to these people. And then they also offer training to them and then weaponry.
All right, we appreciate that. Thank you very much for your time. William Els joining us via Zoom from Pretoria. Now, the Tunisian Navy has rescued 178 migrants who were trying to cross the Mediterranean Sea from Libya. According to Tunisia's Defense Ministry, 2 bodies were also recovered during the operation off Tunisia's coast. The migrants are listed as hailing from Egypt, Tunisia, Syria, Cote d'Ivoire, Bangladesh, Nigeria, Mali and Ethiopia. Tunisian authorities intercepted the migrants who had set off from the Libyan port of Zuwara on Friday night. A day earlier, Tunisian authorities intercepted another 267 would-be migrants who had also begun the sea crossing from Libya. Red Crescent officials have warned that centers set up to house migrants in southern Tunisia were full. According to the International Organization for Migration, more than 1,000 migrants setting off from Libya have ended up in Tunisia since January. The World Health Organization says the Delta variant has been detected in at least 92 countries. It says it's by far the most transmissible of the variants identified. In Australia, the cities of Darwin and Sydney are in a new lockdown after detecting cases of the Delta variant. Sydney has reported 110 new cases, while Darwin has seen 4. The state of New South Wales has reported 18 new cases. In Bangladesh, tens of thousands of migrant workers fled the capital Dhaka ahead of a tough lockdown. South Africa has tightened restrictions to combat a new surge in infections, which the government says is linked to the Delta variant. South Africa has also recorded nearly 19,000 new cases. Ethiopia's Electoral Commission is today expected to announce the preliminary results of parliamentary elections held on Monday last week. The polls were marred by an opposition boycott and reports of irregularities in some areas. However, observers from the African Union say the polls were conducted in a credible manner. The poll is considered the first test of voter support for Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed. The elections, which could lead to the country's first democratic transfer of power, had been repeatedly delayed due to the COVID-19 pandemic. Insecurity and logistical problems also prevented voting from taking place in some areas. So Jutian Grimchala is in Addis Ababa for us. He joins us for the latest on these preliminary results of last week's election. So, Girom, what's the latest on that?
Penina, the National Electoral Board of Ethiopia has made few announcements based on the developments that have been seen over the last few days. One of them is from 440 seats of the parliament, more than half of them are now announced by them and confirmed. The results are confirmed, and the rest of them are also pending to be announced perhaps in the coming few days as well. The other most important issue that has been raised is the complaints by several parties are being addressed according to the National Electoral Board, and administrative decisions have also been made. Vote recountings are the ones to blame for most of the delays of the results announcements, according to them, and work is now being expedited so that all general election results can be announced in the coming week or so. So far, what we know is this, Penina.
All right, so talk to us about the progress on voting in some of the areas where voting had been delayed.
As you know, the Tigray regional state, some areas in Somalia and Harari regional states, there were no elections held, the sixth round of Ethiopian general elections, by the way. Some of the areas, including Tigray, is insecurity, obviously, and some of the areas, some other areas were also logistic and other related problems. The Ethiopian National Electoral Board, again, said that September is the time scheduled to hold the general elections, part of the general elections in these regional states so far, so that the overall election results can also be added up to this one. So they are saying that September is the scheduled time, and preparations are being made according to plan. And so far, there are no delays expected in that regard. But the Tigray regional state on its own is saying that yes, insecurity is still a challenge, and the central government needs to support it so that it can manage that election on time in September, that is.
All right, Gurum, thank you for that update. Gurum Chala live in Addis Ababa. China and Russia have formally announced the extension of the Treaty of Good Neighborliness, Friendship and Cooperation between the two countries. During a video conference with his Russian counterpart, Vladimir Putin, on Monday afternoon, Chinese President Xi Jinping said the idea of lasting friendship enshrined in the treaty conforms to the fundamental interests of the two countries and conforms also to the theme of peace and development of the era, and is a vivid practice of building a new type of international relations in a community with a shared future for mankind. Xi said he is confident that under the guidance of the spirit of the treaty, China and Russia will overcome difficulties and march ahead together. You're watching Africa Live. Let's take a quick break. Coming up, connecting special needs children to much needed therapy. We'll tell you how an organization in Kenya is bridging the gap for the poor. Africa is a continent of diversity, with varied climates and enchanting geography, and a people so distinct but with a shared enduring spirit. We are at the heart of the continent to bring you the untold stories. Let's have a look. We celebrate Africa as it shapes its own destiny.
Tunis, Cairo, Juba, Ethiopia, Tanzania.
Africa Live. Find your voice. How will your world change today? What happens here? What happens there? Or what you make happen for yourself. If it matters to you, it matters to us too. Your stories are the stories that need to be told. Africa Live. Find your voice.
I try to not let it affect me, but there are days when it does. I'm a human being, and to see patients in a hospital bed and their family members are not there, there's no one there to hold their hand, that human touch, you know?
I just hope everyone can remember that the situation is not permanent and that everything will get better eventually.
The U.S. says it's carried out another round of airstrikes against Iraqi forces countering ISIL in Iraq and Syria. The U.S. calls the troops Iranian-backed militias and says it was responding to drone attacks against U.S. personnel and facilities in Iraq. The American military said the strikes targeted operational and weapons storage sites. It gave no details of any casualties. Jagruti Davi has more from Washington, D.C.
In a statement, the Pentagon Press Secretary John Kirby said that the airstrikes were conducted on facilities in the Iraq-Syria border region, and that they were designed to limit the risk of escalation, but also to send a clear and unambiguous deterrent message. The targets were in Iraq and Syria, and that they were chosen because they were being used by Iran-backed militias that John Kirby said were engaged in unmanned aerial vehicle attacks against U.S. personnel and facilities. There were bases that were used by Iran-backed militia, say the U.S., for storage and weapons storage. So this is the second such strike conducted by the U.S. And I think this is a calculation that the United States is having to make. There are some observers who say that the round of airstrikes in February, which was the first that was conducted, they weren't enough of a deterrent. Remember, in this statement, the Pentagon has said that they are aimed at merely being a deterrent. They are defensive attacks. That's the kind of language that's used. They're not aimed at wanting to escalate the situation. And that is clearly because the United States has its eye on bringing Iran back to the table, back to talks on the nuclear deal. But of course, Iran and the United States are not talking directly. They are being mediated, these talks, by European negotiators. So this is clearly adding fragility and complications to an already very delicate situation between the two countries.
On the occasion of the 100th anniversary of the founding of the Communist Party of China, Nigeria's Minister of Information and Culture, Lai Mohammed, expressed congratulations to the Communist Party of China. In addition, he also spoke highly of the fruitful results of cooperation between China and Nigeria in various fields. He emphasized that Nigeria is proud of having good relations with China.
On behalf of the federal government of Nigeria, I congratulate the CPC and the government of China. It's not a mean feat for a political party to exist for 100 years. For a political party in a country, anywhere in the world, to survive for 100 years, I think must be celebrated. In the area of infrastructure in particular, we know that China has stretched its hands to pull us up. I think the China government and Chinese companies have been quite very prominent in this. And whatever we can do to deepen infrastructure development, I think should be continued and be encouraged.
Chief Mukuni, a traditional leader in Zambia, has said that under the leadership of the Chinese Communist Party, China has ended absolute poverty, improved the living standards of the Chinese people, and promoted sustainable green development. He said China has so many amazing achievements which should be praised highly by the rest of the world.
On behalf of Zambian people, I wish to extend my warmest congratulations to the Chinese leading party, CPC, for its centenary anniversary, and also to the remarkable major achievements that China has made under the leadership of CPC over the last 100 years. As far as I know, the fundamental changes have taken place in all around aspects in China, like economic, social development, alleviation of absolute poverty, enhancement of the living standards of the Chinese people, sustainable and green development, to name a few, especially in the China's international trade with the rest of the world, and its policy of reform and opening up. So I must say that those great achievements, accomplishments that Chinese people have made under the leadership of CPC must be applauded and congratulated by the rest of the world.
The Communist Party of China has a long history of engagement to the African continent as countries and their leaders fought for and attained independence and worked to ensure growth and development for their citizens. CGTN's Wilkis Chanyabwa sat down with the CEO of the African Policy Institute for insights on China's engagement with the continent through pivotal points in their history.
One would look at CPC from different perspectives. One, as a liberation party. Two, as a post-independent development party. And three, as a party that has generally taken part in shaping our global politics. African liberation parties like African National Congress in South Africa, ZANU-PF in Zimbabwe, they would all learn these skills from CPC. What skills am I talking about? The need to liberate your people and give them dignity, and the need to liberate resources and use them for the development of your people. That's what liberation amounts to. What we call the Beijing Consensus was a consensus about liberation, about freedom, about non-hegemony, about the unity of humanity. That is what we now call Beijing Consensus, and I hope the thinkers of Beijing Consensus are now involved in adjusting this beautiful liberation of thought to the realities of the post-Cold War era.
We have seen China's economic growth, and this has spilled over into Africa, and Africa is also now benefiting from this. Perhaps you can talk us through some of the highlights of this.
Because of that clear-mindedness of the Chinese political leadership, what we have had is long-term stability of China. From 1949 to date, the Communist Party is governing. It's going through the rhythms of life, looking at what change is coming and adjusting to that change. And as a result, China has been able to achieve things that no other country in the world has managed to achieve within such a short period. China has some resources that it can now use for the development of humanity. Now, if a country like China, that is presiding over the world economy, does not invest those kind of resources, different parts of the world are left behind. And therefore, you are not moving as one, what President Xi Jinping calls, a community of shared destiny for mankind. And that is where China has come out very strongly in order to invest some of its resources at affordable costs for the Africans. And therefore, we can see the transformation of Kenya. Let me not talk about Africa. My own Kenya, its liberation from 2000. What have we gotten? Look at the roads that we have here. Look at the railway from Mombasa now headed to Kisumu and finally to Busia and all the way up to Uganda. And the Forum for China-Africa Cooperation has provided that think tank at the highest level possible, and with the segmentation where elites like myself, or the scholars and intellectuals, are also involved in terms of giving ideas and thoughts about how the China-Africa Cooperation must be structured. Through Belt and Road Initiative, we have also managed to basically pump resources. Today, 40 African countries are taking part in that, 40 out of 55. And the number, I'm told, is growing. We are now reaching almost 43. The groupization of China is based on this idea of greater unity of mankind, building a community of shared destiny for all of us, and that destiny is prosperous, and that destiny is peaceful, and that destiny is full of dignity for all of us. Nobody would fight with that thought.
Cote d'Ivoire's controversial former president Laurent Gbagbo received a hero's welcome when he visited his home village on Sunday. The 76-year-old Gbagbo was received by thousands of his supporters when he arrived in Mama. The village of Mama, located in the southwest of the West African country, has been a beehive of activity awaiting the return of Gbagbo. Gbagbo arrived in Cote d'Ivoire from Europe on June 18th after being acquitted of the crimes against humanity by the ICC. The charges had stemmed from violence that claimed around 3,000 lives after Gbagbo refused to concede electoral defeat in 2010. You're watching Africa Live. Coming up in business news, Tanzanian president hints at adopting cryptocurrencies to drive the economy.
It's just taken me completely out of my depth, but at the same time it's exciting. It's new, it's different, it's a challenge.
It's really exciting.
Africa is the nexus of enterprise, and global business will tell you why it matters.
From the mega investment projects to multi-billion-dollar mergers and acquisitions.
Africa today collects, just in terms of revenues from taxes alone, $545 billion a year. If you take 10% of that and you devote it to the energy sector, problem solved.
All this on Global Business, weekdays at this time on CGTN.
You don't find the stories of North Africa by sitting on the sidelines. You've got to get out, go there, and you'll find them. In the bazaars of Casablanca. Among the crowds in Cairo.
Who comes to visit Cairo, the ancient capital of Egypt?
Along the waters of the Nile. Along the sands of the Sahara. No one else will take you where we can in North Africa. No one else will show you what it's all about. CGTN, see the difference.
The South African government has once again placed a total prohibition on alcohol sales, a travel ban and an earlier curfew as the country struggles against a third wave of COVID-19 infections. South Africa on Sunday recorded over 15,000 new COVID-19 cases. CGTN's Yolisa Njamela has more.
This past weekend, the South African government confirmed that the highly infectious Delta variant of COVID-19 is behind the current surge in new cases in the country. The variant was first detected in India and is rapidly becoming the dominant one in South Africa. President Cyril Ramaphosa has announced new restrictions in an effort to contain the massive surge in infections and relieve pressure on the healthcare sector. In a televised national address, the president confirmed that the Delta variant is fast spreading through the country.
The evidence we have is that the Delta variant is rapidly displacing the Beta variant, which has been dominant in our country until now. We are concerned about the rapid spread of this variant. Firstly, because it is more transmissible than previously circulating viruses, meaning that it is easier to catch this virus through person-to-person contact. It is thought to be twice as contagious, that is transmissible, as the earlier variants. Secondly, because it is more contagious. It can infect far more people.
South Africa is currently gripped by a third COVID-19 wave. Some of the restrictions reimposed by the government include a total ban on alcohol sales.
Our Ministerial Advisory Committee has advised that the limited restrictions that we previously imposed were not that effective, and that a prohibition will ease the pressure that is placed on hospital services by alcohol-related emergency incidents.
In addition to the alcohol ban, all restaurants have been ordered to close. They may only provide takeaway meals and deliveries. Curfew has been extended. It will now be from 9 p.m. to 4 a.m. All indoor and outdoor gatherings are prohibited, and travel in and out of Gauteng province is also prohibited for leisure purposes. Gauteng is the worst affected province.
Gauteng now accounts for more than 60% of new cases in the country. With the exceptions of the Northern Cape and the Free State, infections are rising rapidly in all other provinces. What we are seeing is that the existing containment measures in place are not enough to cope with the speed and the scale of the infections.
The impact of these interventions will be assessed in 14 days to determine whether they should be maintained or adjusted. Meanwhile, the president also announced that nearly 2.7 million people in South Africa have received a vaccine dose thus far. Yolisa Njamela for CGTN in Johannesburg, South Africa.
Egypt has announced new cuts to electricity subsidies, raising prices by between 8% and 26% from July. The move is part of a wider decision taken to eliminate state subsidies within 5 years in 2014, but which has since been extended to 8 years following the outbreak of the COVID-19 pandemic. CGTN's Yasser Hakim has the story.
Electricity bills in the North African state will from July rise by between 8 and 26%, depending on the consumption segment, as the government implements the 8th increase in power prices. The electricity price hikes are part of a plan to gradually eliminate energy subsidies by 2019, but which has now been extended to 2024-2025. The move has faced several obstacles in the past.
The government's plan began in 2014, and the initial target was to completely eliminate electricity subsidies by 2019. But after the floating of the Egyptian pound, the Prime Minister and the President postponed the subsidy cuts to 2021 to soften the effects of the austerity measures. Then there was a setback caused by the COVID-19 pandemic, which hit the economy in 2020 and had a major impact on people's lives. So the decision was to postpone it from the 2020-2021 fiscal year to 2024-2025.
The government says it will be saving approximately $1.7 billion annually from the subsidy cuts. Money, it says, will go into services and social welfare programs for the poor. Meanwhile, commercial and industrial facilities will not see an increase in electricity costs in a bid to ensure Egypt remains an attractive destination for investments.
The state has fixed prices of electricity for industries at 10 piasters. When you compare these to neighboring countries and other regions, and in other continents as well, it is the lowest price, just 10 piasters or half a cent per kilowatt.
Officials are also encouraging Egyptians to replace electricity with the much cheaper natural gas in their homes and businesses to save on household expenses. Yes, Hakim for CGTN, Cairo.
Tanzanian President Samia Suluhu Hassan sees a future where cryptocurrency is part of the country's economy. She's told the country's financial chiefs to prepare for change. CGTN's Isaac Lukando has more.
Cryptocurrency trader Kabenda Balete is relieved that his favorite activity is now recognized by the government. He says from 2016, when he started trading, at least $22 million have already been transacted in Tanzania. Cryptocurrency, he believes, has been life-changing for many young people in the country.
If you tell them
you have to be employed. They won't understand you because they know they are getting something they want from cryptocurrency. So there's a lot of benefits, but if you take time and learn. If you don't want to learn, then you lose money.
While the exact number of cryptocurrency traders in the country is unknown, some estimate it could be in the thousands. The country's president is asking financial experts to explore the potential benefits and pitfalls of cryptocurrency.
It's important that we work on these developments. We must be ready. When these changes come, they should not catch us off guard because we might feel we are not ready, but we may very well be overtaken by our own citizens.
The adoption of blockchain technology, the platform on which cryptocurrencies are traded, is on the rise globally. What makes the technology attractive is its perceived safety, enabling individuals and businesses to carry out digital transactions on a secure platform at a much faster rate.
Africa is the second continent globally in terms of cryptocurrency adoption, particularly in peer-to-peer trading. Lack of access to traditional banking systems has made it easier for people in Africa to accept mobile money, and now cryptocurrencies.
While no regulation on cryptocurrency exists, the Central Bank of Tanzania says it has already begun working on it. Sandra Chogo, author and developer of a blockchain technology curriculum for Tanzania's public accountants, says with over 4,000 cryptocurrencies in existence, regulation is a must.
There are some fake cryptocurrencies out there. You might think you've bought into a good one and expect it to increase in value, but it could turn out to be fake. Many end up losing even the capital they've invested.
Tanzania adopting cryptocurrency as legal tender in the purchase of goods and services may be a long way off. In the meantime, the government is hoping to lay the foundation for smooth transactions in the future. Isaac Lukando, CGTN, Dar es Salaam.
Many businesses in Nigeria are suffering from the impact of the UAE's travel ban. The ban came barely 48 hours after Emirates announced the resumption of flights to the West African nation. Disagreements between the UAE and the Nigerian government over COVID-19 protocols led to the renewed travel ban. CGTN's Kelechi Mekalam has the details.
Ijoma Mapai has spent about 10 years running and growing her interior design business. She sources her goods from Dubai and sells them in Abuja, Nigeria's capital. But the travel ban on Nigeria has been affecting her business. She's lost over 30% profit she could have made on turnovers.
That is really affecting the business. You know, you don't get what you want because you can't travel. You have a business money, you're keeping it, waiting for a ban to be lifted.
UAE flag carrier airline Emirates shut down flights to Nigeria since February due to government's disagreements on COVID-19 protocols. The UAE had announced plans to lift the travel ban only to rescind its decision 48 hours later. Experts blame the latest action on the absence of global leadership for pandemic protocols.
We have our own protocol in Nigeria, which is different from what they expected from us. So normally, it's supposed to be either the International Civil Aviation Organization, ICAO, that's supposed to come with a protocol for all the members, to adhere to. So that is missing. The state is WHO. They don't have a protocol for every country, and that is why countries like Britain just came out, who can travel, cannot travel.
In 2018, 185,000 Nigerians visited Dubai, but by the first half of 2019, Dubai recorded a 28% increase in the number of Nigerian visitors, bringing the West African nation to Dubai's top 20 visitors list. The travel ban has created a huge gap in the aviation industry and the larger economy.
On the economy, we are practically importers, so we import from Dubai, and Dubai lives on our own, what we spend in Dubai, because anytime Nigerians travel to Dubai, they have to spend money. I won't say Dubai cannot do without our money, they can, but we have a lot of investment in Dubai, so we are linked economically. So there must have been some impact on the two economies.
There's no official statement from the Nigerian government on the travel ban extension, but businesses like Mapai's are looking to resume transaction so they can maximize profit. They're hoping that both governments resolve their differences soon and reinstate the flights. Kelechi Emekalam, CGTN Abuja, Nigeria.
The greatest journeys, the greatest sights, the greatest adventures.
Here in Tanater, this weir allows the locals to walk on water.
We're far more than just TV news. We're your passport to the wonders of Africa.
To bring you stories of struggle, survival and hope.
So let's explore. CGTN. See the difference.
Welcome back to Africa Live. Now, for parents in low-income areas in Kenya, accessing therapy and rehabilitation for children with special needs can be an uphill task. One charitable organization is seeking to address this by providing therapy in low-income neighborhoods in the capital, Nairobi. Every week on Saturday, children with autism, cerebral palsy, delayed milestones, and other special needs assemble at centers where they have one-on-one sessions with specialists. CGTN's Wilkista Nyabwa reports.
Every Saturday morning in a little room in Mathare informal settlement in Nairobi, therapists knead and squeeze and massage their little patients until there is no more discomfort. It is an important part of the treatment. The Radiators Foundation, a non-governmental organization, offers free therapy to children with special needs. Parents from across the city begin to arrive with their children from as early as 6:30 in the morning. They do not want to miss their turn with the two volunteer occupational therapists on duty. Christine started to attend the sessions after her daughter was diagnosed with autism.
I noticed when she was 3 that she didn't speak and wasn't as active as the other children were.
She tried the local hospital first, but faced a long wait for an appointment for therapy. So when she heard about the center in Mathare, she traveled across town to take her child to it.
Now when a song comes on the radio, I hear her sing along. She wasn't like that before. She'd spend the whole day without saying a word.
Christine is one of over 30 patients who bring their children to weekly sessions at this center. The therapy offered varies from child to child.
We start by doing an assessment. Well, we do an assessment to identify the problems which the kid may have. After that, we make out a treatment plan which guides us on how to do the therapies.
The center sees children with conditions like cerebral palsy, autism, Down syndrome and others.
We found out that children were the most disadvantaged when it comes to access of therapy services, are expensive and hard to come by.
Information regarding the nature, availability and distribution of rehabilitation services for children with disabilities in the country is scarce. However, the Action Foundation reports that even before COVID-19, access to rehabilitation services for children with disabilities was a challenge for parents and caregivers in informal settlements.
This is a lifelong journey that you'll have to walk with them. So the therapy services that we offer these children make them become independent. They are not meant to cure the disability, but to make this child be able to go to school, stay at home alone, because now for the parents who have children who have these disabilities, it means that they are tied to the houses.
The foundation runs 2 other centers and plans to expand its operations to provide daily services. Every session enables the children and their parents to make another step forward, another step toward progress. In low-income neighborhoods across the country, accessing therapy for children with disabilities still remains an uphill task. Part of the challenge lies in lack of access and lack of awareness. Programs such as this, therefore, provide a platform for these children to access much-needed therapy, improving their outcomes. Wilkisanyabwa CGTN in Mathare, Kenya.
And coming up in sports, action-packed Safari Rally weekend sees Sebastian Ogier emerge victorious.
How would you create your legend? On the fields, on the tracks, in the arenas of Africa. Were you born to be a player? Could this moment be yours? Sports Scene. Find your game.
Frenchman Sebastian Ogier is the WRC Safari Rally Kenya 2021 champion after a dramatic closing day of the series on Sunday. Together with Japan's Katsuta Takamoto, they completed a Toyota Gazoo Racing 1-2 in Naivasha. Here's CGTN's Joy Kiruki with more.
Seven-time world champion and series leader Sebastian Ogier added the Safari Rally crown to his checkered titles on Sunday. However, he had to attack from behind to win the African Classic on an incident-packed final day. Overnight leader Belgian's Thierry Neuville was a surprising casualty of the opening stage 14 when his Hyundai i20 was forced out by a broken suspension. Japan's Katsuma Takamoto then took over the lead. The advantage was slashed to just 0.8 seconds. The experienced reigning WRC champion then pounced in the remaining 3 stages to snatch victory.
For me this morning, the plan was to push to try to catch Taka for second place, but now it turned out that it's a fight for victory.
Yeah, unfortunately, about tire-wise, I have much weaker than him, so I need to accept this situation. And but still, rallies, anything can happen. So I'm just trying to keep as close as possible to him, and then to see what's gonna happen.
Stage 16 threw more drama to the Safari, with Takamoto and Ogier ending the stage tied in the overall rankings, in a stage that was won by M-Sport Ford Adrien Fomo.
I've done my first fastest time today, so I've won one stage. It's a good day for me.
The last 2 stages were all about not making mistakes, and the world champion made none, finishing 21.8 seconds ahead of his teammate Takamoto to claim a first Toyota victory at the WRC Safari Rally since 1995.
You know, I think Rally Kenya didn't disappoint. It was a very challenging event for everybody with a lot of actions. Many things happened, and I think we can be happy to come out as a winner.
I'm very proud because this was in the 90s and the 80s. This event was the most important single event in the championship for Toyota, and now coming back to win this rally since 1994. It's been a long time, and return to Safari for the first time, and we are able to win it. So for sure it has a great value for Toyota.
The return of the Safari Rally to the WRC has been a resounding success. Despite its shortened form, the event still retains its heritage of drama, captivating scenery and driving flair with Ogier, its latest star. Joy Kiruki Juma, CGTN.
And selling the World Rally Championship Safari Rally, it was a proud moment for local fans as Onkar Rai emerged victorious in the WRC 3 category that saw all the top 3 sports picked up by Kenyans. Onkar had on Friday almost stopped his safari endeavour after his brother Tejveer Rai crashed and had to be airlifted to hospital. He, however, was urged by his team to keep going, and by the end of Saturday, he was lying 8th in the overall rankings and set to be in his category, barring any incident. But Onkar finished 29 minutes 26.4 seconds off the winner Sebastian Oji. He was joined by Karan Patel and Carl Tundo in the top 10. The two also emerged second and third in the WRC category, to the awe of many rally fans across the world.
One of the most, I think, emotional weekends I've ever experienced. And to come away with the win and get WRC points. Our name's there now in the news, in the history, so maybe I can retire. No, that won't happen anytime soon. But yeah, we're just glad to be here, glad for the win, and just thank everyone that's been behind us. And you know, this one is for my brother. He's recovering at the moment, and I'm sure this will lift his spirits as well.
In European football, Euro's defending champions Portugal have been bundled out of the tournament after a 1-0 loss to Belgium. Portugal began brightly, but Diogo Jota failed to score after his shot went wide in the 6th minute. In the 24th minute, Cristiano Ronaldo tested Thibaut Courtois with a low free kick, but his former teammate managed to make a much-needed save. In the 43rd minute, however, Thomas Meunier found Torgan Hazard, whose shot was so powerful for Rui Patricio. Portugal applied pressure, but the Belgian side managed to hold on for the 1-0 victory and set up a tie against Italy in the quarterfinals.
They are the current champions of the Euros. They won the Nations League. They got an incredible experience and know how to take those moments that they hurt you. I think we had an incredible concentration. We defended really well. After the first half, we played really good game. We controlled and we defended well when we had to, but then we scored a very good goal. And then in the second half, as you would expect, the more that the momentum went to Portugal, we had to show an incredible mentality.
Futebolista, a bola não quis entrar. Em outras ocasiões, se calhar.
This is football. The ball did not want to go in. Sometimes, in other games, we had less chances and we won. But that's football. We are very disappointed. All of us here believe to reach the final and win the tournament like in 2016. That was our spirit and that was our attitude. We are very disappointed. Some of the players were crying in the changing room, and that's only as it would be expected. But there are still a lot of titles to win.
Elsewhere in Budapest, Czech Republic shocked Netherlands with a 2-0 victory. After a goalless first half, the game changer came in the 55th minute after Matthijs de Ligt got sent off for a handball which denied a goal-scoring chance. The Czechs seized the opportunity with the extra man advantage, with Thomas Holz opening the score in the 68th minute with a close-range header. In the 80th minute, Bayer Leverkusen striker Patrick Schick scored his 4th goal of the tournament and gave his team a much-needed advantage. The Czech Republic will next face Denmark in the quarterfinals on Saturday in Baku. We now head to South America, where Copa America hosts Brazil had their 10-game winning streak ended after a 1-0 draw against Ecuador. In the 11th minute, Ecuador's Ener Valencia nearly caught Alisson Becker off his line with a long shot, but his effort went over the bar. In the 37th minute, the hosts got up the mark after Everton Suarez's cross found Real Madrid defender Eder Militao, who opened the score. In the second half, after 53 minutes of play, Brazil failed to clear the ball from around the box, which in turn saw Angel Mena equalize for the visitors. The draw has helped Ecuador book a quarter-final spot. Tennis ace Serena Williams will not be traveling to Tokyo for the Olympic Games in Japan, opting not to disclose reasons behind her decision. Williams won the singles title at the London Olympics in 2012, and she has also picked up 3 gold medals in doubles with sister Venus in Sydney in 2000, Beijing in 2008, and London in 2012.
I have not thought about it. You know, it is in the past has been a wonderful place for me, but I really haven't thought about it, and so I'm going to keep not thinking about it.
Elsewhere, the Tokyo 2020 Olympic torch relay concluded its 2-day tour of Yamanashi Prefecture on Sunday. Part of the route took it to Mount Fuji, the highest mountain and volcano in Japan, although it remained covered in heavy mist during the torch's visit. Yamanashi is the 42nd of the 47 prefectures to be visited by the torch before the games open on July 23rd. In basketball, Milwaukee Bucks extended their Eastern Conference Finals lead to 2-1 after a 113-102 victory over the Atlanta Hawks. Chris Middleton scored 20 points in the fourth quarter to lead the night with 38 points and 11 rebounds. Greek-Nigerian Giannis Antetokounmpo had 33 points and 11 rebounds to help Bucks take the series lead. Trae Young scored 35 points for Atlanta, but was slowed in the final period after injuring his right ankle late in the third quarter. Giannis has commended his teammate Chris Middleton for his efforts in the victory. And that's where we end it for now on Africa Live. We invite your feedback, send it to the contacts on the screen, and follow us on our digital media platforms. I'm Penina Kariba. Thank you for watching.
This is CGTN, China Global Television Network.
Live from CGTN Beijing, this is Asia Today.
China and Russia agree to bolster cooperation as their two leaders meet via video link. That's our top story today. But first, the headlines.
Xi Jinping and Vladimir Putin hold online talks, extending a friendship treaty between China and Russia. Malaysia extends a nationwide lockdown that's been in place for a month as coronavirus infections remain high.
The vaccination efforts have been ramping up considerably this month. They're now averaging more than 250,000 shots a day. They expect that number to exceed 300,000 in the coming months.
And the United States carries out another attack on Iraqi armed forces countering ISIL in the Iraq-Syria border region.
Great to have you with us on Asia Today. Chinese President Xi Jinping and Russian President Vladimir Putin are holding a virtual meeting. The two leaders have announced their desire to extend the Treaty of Good Neighborliness and Friendly Cooperation, which was signed in 2001. President Xi has said the treaty is a vivid example of building a new type of international relations and a community with a shared future for mankind. Now, the meeting is the latest interaction between the two leaders after they witnessed a groundbreaking ceremony of a bilateral nuclear energy cooperation project via video link last month. The two leaders have kept close contact since the start of the COVID-19 pandemic. And following the development for us is our reporter Chen Ziyuan. She's now live for us from Beijing with the latest on the meeting between the two presidents. Ziyuan.
Good evening, Meng Meng. So as you just mentioned, something just came out of the meeting is by Chinese President Xi Jinping. He says China and Russia relationship is actually a practical example of the new type of international relations. I think this is a point that echoes an earlier point made by Russian President Vladimir Putin. He says Russia and China's relationship is at an unprecedented level. In addition to that, Putin actually stressed that China is not a threat to Russia. I think what they are trying to make is China and Russia has been a close cooperation from military as well as trade partners. The Chinese and Russian militaries has held joint exercise for more than a decade, as well as their first was in the Mediterranean in 2015. In addition to that, it followed by their first in the Baltic in 2017. An expert Peng Dapeng, actually from Chinese Academy of Social Sciences, says Russia has supported China's Belt and Road Initiative even during the pandemic. However, both sides' cooperation still need more systematic cooperation and more effective policy to support both countries' agenda. In addition to that, I want to add more details by data provided by China's Ministry of Commerce. The bilateral trade between the two countries actually stands at $108 billion in 2020, and China is still Russia's biggest trade partner. Back to you, Meng Meng.
Yeah, now this year marks the 20th anniversary of the